So let's look at a true 5-axis part. So this part is a trim bezel. It's a core mold insert block. If you think about on a door handle in your car, you got a bezel. The trim is called a bezel in automotive terms. So this is the actual chrome bezel around your door handle. So it's obviously it's a complicated surface model, and really the only way you can machine that accurately is in 5-axis. Okay, so we're going to show you what operation types use. Basic horizontal roughing, just to clear off the material. Basic facing. Again, I mentioned facing is very versatile. In the other 2-axis part, I showed you if the face has an open area, it knows that and it'll enter and exit in that open area. If the face has an inner and an outer, like we have an inner profile and an outer profile, it understands that it's not to violate the inner profile. So it violates the outer profile to clear the shelf, but it maintains the inner perimeter. Very versatile. So now we have some 5-axis operations. Let's look at the tool motions here, if it'll let me do that. Okay. So what this is here is this is just the coordinates of the motion itself. This is not the G code, but this is the coordinates inside of RhinoCAM. Okay, so I'm just going to use the down arrow to go down, and you can see the tool. Let's zoom out just a little bit. You can see how this is oriented. So the tool is oriented. This is a between two curves. So it's orienting the tool. The tool path is generated between these two surface edges, and it's maintaining a perpendicular orientation. It's true to any point on this surface. So the tool, the Z-axis of the spindle, these are all continuous motions. So the tool is rotating and moving, okay, in all 5 axes in order to machine that surface. Let's just go ahead and look around that. So it's going around, and just to pick that up a little bit. So it's going around, maintaining perpendicularity to the surface at every cut point, and it's using a flat end mill because this is I guess you could consider it a flat surface, but it's a contoured flat surface, and we'll just go around that. So there's the 5-axis between two curves. Swarf machining, the side of the tool is actually doing the cutting. Okay, so we're selecting, let's go ahead and look at this, if it'll let me get into that. So we're selecting a wall surface. So the side of the tool is cutting on the wall surface. So this is the wall surface here. If you look at, see if we can look at this. So this surface right here is the side of the tool. Okay. And then the edge of the tool is following the bottom curve. So we have a brown curve and a green curve. So this is the bottom edge and this is the side of the tool. Let's go ahead and just run that through real quick. As it goes around, you'll see that the side of the tool is staying perpendicular to the sidewall, and the edge of the tool is stopping on the bottom edge. So this is a true 5-axis operation type. Okay, so look what else we got. Curve machining. In 5-axis, this is used a lot for like trimming edges. Like if you have, like I mentioned before on the baptistery basin, it's a fiberglass layup, and they probably put that on a fixture and trim those edges where the fiberglass extends past the edge. You could use curve machining in 5-axis to cut that edge off. So in this particular case, we're just using it to finish this bottom edge of this surface contour based on an edge. Okay. We have another swarf machining to go around the bottom. Okay. Here, if we zoom in, this is another between two curves where the tool remains normal to or perpendicular to any cut point on that surface. So it'll just work its way around. And here we have a is a 3D offset pocketing. And what's interesting about this is one of the advanced 3-axis operation types. This is a constant step over. So in 3-axis, if you're cutting, obviously, if you're cutting molds and you're cutting a cavity or a parting face or anything that's contoured, you want to maintain a constant step over, a constant cusp height. Cusp height meanings what is the height of the material left as you follow that, as you run that ball mill in 2 different parallel passes. There's going to be a curve between the 2 of them where the material is left. So this type of operation maintains a constant cusp height or a constant step over, regardless of the shape of the geometry. Okay, we have a very large step over, but if it was a tight step over, you would see it better. Likely, you'd have the distance between this pass is the same as the distance between this pass, which is the same as the distance between this pass. Those are used in mold machining to get a very fine finish on a mold cavity. Joe, is there any questions? You didn't stop me for anything. It looks like we're done.
Okay, all right. Yeah, not too many questions. There was a lot of information, so maybe people are not are digesting it. But thanks, Don. I think we're done. We're done with time. Anything else you want to do? Some post-processing or talk a little bit about that?
Okay. And for post-processing here, I just picked it post. We have 2 types of post. Legacy, meaning this is the standard post-processing that everyone gets, okay? We call it legacy only because we added a new Python programmable post option. That was a couple of versions back. Where you want to talk about that, Joe? You can take a moment to talk about the Python post.
Yeah, so the Python post is basically a completely new architecture that we implemented. It was actually implemented in 2025, but we've enhanced it in 2026 quite a bit. And it's pretty powerful. It's event driven. So, and because of the power of Python programming language, we can do lots of interesting things in the post. So we're pretty confident we can handle pretty much any machine out there in the field right now. So it's an interesting area that we worked on, and moving forward, that is the area that we will be focusing most of our resources on. So you'll see more posts coming, more Python posts being developed from our end.
Okay, and also, what do the users do if they have or they run into problems and they think they might need it?
Yeah, so Python posts are obviously complicated. The legacy posts are macro driven. So, excuse me, we have a post process generator that's bundled with the product. Users can use it if they are familiar, if they're comfortable, they can use it and set up their own posts. But if you need any additional help on the post processors, we can. If it's something simple, we can do it as part of your support maintenance agreement. But if it's something that we need to really get in and start a project, it'll be a separate cost item. Our sales department can give you the information regarding the costs, and it'll depend on the machine complexity that you have. So you can talk to us about that.
Okay, what I did there is I just selected, I had the legacy post. This is the macro driven post, our post process generator. I just picked edit next to Haas. And this is the post-process generator. So you have, as Joe mentioned, it's macro driven. You have all these macros in there for different types of areas of the code. For instance, a tool change, you got macros for, how is the G code going to be formatted when it does a tool change, et cetera. And you can work through all of these operation types, all kinds of drilling cycles, boring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions, we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna send you a recording of the video probably tomorrow, or maybe even this afternoon, but probably tomorrow. And you can watch it then. And if you got any questions, you can send us an email to support@mecsoft.com, and we'll obviously answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Everyone.
Bye.